Raise the hands. How many people have heard of The Economist, the magazine, publication, research thing, or whatever? Show of hands. So something that's worth paying attention to, there's these little indicators and stuff that I think we could use as gauges when it comes to stuff. We seem pretty split on people who have heard of it and who haven't. Okay. That's cool. But there's some indicators, like I mentioned before a few episodes back, about one of the indicators that I saw that Trump was going to win and support the plan was to have him be a part of it. Was I saw a shift on Saturday Night Live. Yeah, you know, that unfunny skit show that has been funny for several decades now. But you can usually gauge political leanings and movements and whatnot if you pay attention to them. And towards about 2 months before the election, they shifted and started going positive on Trump and absolutely nailing Kamala to the wall. And so when I saw that, that was an indicator that they're going to get Trump in. That's when the national media all of a sudden started flip-flopping and going pro-Trump and anti-Kamala and whatnot. So when you see these things, it's usually a good sign of what they plan to do. The Economist puts out a yearly release called the World Ahead cover. And you could go back in history. You can look at all the covers. They're very, quote unquote, prophetic with what's coming. Obviously, they're not prophets, but the people who own the magazine are people who pull the strings. We'll get to that in just a second. So when they put these things out, you can usually find something in there. Now, people take it way too far. People take it way too far. And man, they will dissect every little thing, trying to come up with some way that it's all connected. You know, like you've seen the walls where they've got all the notes with the red strings going all over the place with people's pictures and whatnot. They can go too far. We shouldn't do that. I've warned about doing that for a long time. Don't try and make things fit. Don't try and, well, it attaches to this number, and if I change this letter over here, it means this and stuff. Don't do that. That's how you get lost in garbage that will send you in the wrong direction every time. You don't want to do that. But what we can do is we can just take a simple, just objective look at what is on the images or on the covers, to see if there's any hints of what's coming. And in the latest one for World Ahead 2025, there was one particular thing that stood out to me that I think is key, because it does play a part with many things that we've been seeing with what's going on. So I'll get to that in just a second. If you don't know The Economist is a publication and is owned by the Agnelli and Rothschild families, which there's the cream of the crop family is for you. Yes, the Agnellis as well. And sitting on the board includes people like Lynn Forrester de Rothschild, Alex Karp, which I've talked about him before. He's the CEO of Palantir. He's connected to the CIA, as well as he's on the steering committee for the Bilderberg Group, along with Peter Thiel, of course. And then another one on there, you may have not heard of him before, but is Mustafa Suleiman, who's actually connected to Microsoft AI and DeepMind, which of course those are big as well. So those are three that sit on the board. There's more of them, but those are the standout ones for me. One of the past members also include Eric Schmidt, who is the Google guy, the CEO of Google, connected to the Alphabet Group, the corporation that owns Google, not the Alphabet, thing. And then of course we know that he's in support of Trump now too. So that's pretty interesting that there's a lot of that going on. So as I said, they're notorious for using covers to predict or tell what's coming. Now, this year is interesting. And so what I want to point out to you guys on this one is at the very top is Saturn. Very, very interesting. Now, if you don't have any idea what on earth I'm talking about when it comes to Saturn or why that's important, I'm going to show that to you tonight. But I think this is very key. So obviously you get Trump in the middle. You can see like a face on there. They lined up the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. And and whatnot. What I do find fascinating is the eyes and the nose and the mouth. Saturn lines up with actually with where the third eye would be, if you want to get into the New Age stuff, which is kind of fascinating. But there's a whole bunch of stuff there. Again, you can see why people would go nuts trying to figure all this stuff out. No, I just want to focus on that one box. Saturn. Why is that? Because Saturn is the ruler of the golden age. And what has Trump been touting for a very long time now? The new golden age of America. I think that's telling. So let's just break this down. Let's go through some history, see how this applies, and all that type of stuff. So Saturn, my bad. I don't know why I wrote Satan. I meant Saturn. Saturn plays a significant role in Roman mythology and is known as the ruler of the Golden Age. He is considered tell me if any of this sounds familiar. He is considered the god of harvest, peace, abundance, and prosperity. Interesting. Connected with him is the festival of Saturnalia, which takes place mid-December near winter solstice and is known as the birth of the sun. S-U-N. I want to make sure that I get that right. The birth of the sun. This was a time of feasting, gift giving, wreath hanging, and candlelight worship. Does any of that sound familiar? Yes, that is where most of the Christmas traditions come from. Oh boy, I'm going to be stepping in it again. I've talked about Christmas before, and I'll talk about it again. Yes, this is where most of the Christmas traditions come from when it comes to things like the candlelight worship and the wreaths and the gift giving and all that type of stuff. It comes from Saturnalia, which is the worship of the Roman mythological god, which of course I don't believe these guys were mythological. I believe these were the Nephilim back then. But still, that's what we got going on with that. So if we go even further back, and I've talked about this in my End Times New Age series, but thought I'd just bring it up again. If we take it further back, it goes to Nimrod, who of course was believed to be birthed or born on December 25th. And on the night of his death, overnight, an evergreen tree sprung up from the dead stump that he was buried next to. And his wife at the time, Semiramis, claimed that was the signaling that his spirit is with them. Each year, they would celebrate around the evergreen tree, where the spirit of Nimrod would then leave gifts and blessings to all of those next to the tree. And so that's where things like the Christmas tree and December 25th and all of that stuff comes from. Then it evolved into what we see with Saturnalia, where more traditions were thrown on. And these are the same traditions that are passed down to Christmas of what we celebrate today. Now, I don't personally celebrate Christmas. I've told people that. I don't celebrate Easter. I don't celebrate Christmas. Don't celebrate Halloween. Don't celebrate Valentine's Day. I've looked into where all that stuff comes from, and I want nothing to do with it. They're all revolved around pagan traditions and whatnot. Now, you guys do what you're going to do. I don't attack anybody for if they do celebrate that stuff. Just do what you do. I personally can't do it after learning what I've learned. But if you guys want to know where the history of this stuff comes from, there it is. So this is where the Romans, they formed those celebrations, those traditions, added on to them. And of course, that became Christmas of what we see today. The Romans worshipped Saturn as so they would be blessed with prosperous crops for the year. And so they worshipped him every single year, mid-December, and it was pleasing to him. And so he would bring them good harvests and good crop growth for the year, as well as prosperity and peace to go along with it. Very interesting. So we're getting a history. I've got some more, obviously, when it comes to this, but we're starting to get a history of the Saturn character and how he plays a part in the golden age. Now, of course, this transitions into a few other things that we'll get to, but we're starting to get an idea of where this comes from. So we've been hearing Trump speak often of the coming golden age of America. And now the Economist has placed Saturn atop the cover of their World Ahead 2025 cover, pointing directly to the ruler of the golden age. Do you guys think that's coincidence? I don't. I don't believe that at all. And as we know, whatchamacallit? Lost track of my train went off the rail there. Come on, get back on, Thomas. I've lost my train of thought on that sentence. It's going to be a good sentence too, and I can't remember what it was. We're just going to have to move on. Sorry. Okay, so let's talk about the golden age. What is the golden age? What's all involved with it? I think this is important to understand too as we move forward. So the golden age is recorded as a time where Earth was peaceful, loving, and flowing with abundance. It was also a time of perfect balance with nature. I think that's key, because what is something that they've been using as a scare fear tactic in order to drive all of their agenda forward? Climate change. And so what have they been trying to do? Well, we need to become in balance with nature. This is something that they've been using for decades to get their agenda in. I would go back to I think it was the late 50s, early 60s, I believe, that this stuff started getting introduced. That was back when you go to the Club of Rome meetings and whatnot. And then the book, I think the book came out in 63 or 64. I think. Don't quote me on dates like that. Unless I have a date written down, I'm terrible with it. But I think it was about that time. But they admitted it, that they're using climate change as a way to make this all happen. And so they're using the perfect balance of nature, which of course is lined up with the golden age. Of course, it's all about peaceful, loving, and flowing with abundance. Part of the New Age belief that we understand has to do with a one love, a oneness love, where everybody's going to come into this light, which is another element to this that I've been trying to talk about. They talk about balance and duality all the time, and it's the light and dark, the light versus dark type of thing, which is, I mean, you just find it in everything: martial arts, Hinduism, Buddhism, alchemy, New Age, New Thought, the metaphysical, the UFOlogy. Everything has to do with balance, the light versus dark, which is something that I've talked about with Trump. Is he's bringing that false light in with him. He's bringing that duality. They made the left so extreme. Nobody can argue that. I've never argued that either, even though I've been, so you voted for Kamala. No, just get out of here. They made the left so extreme, so dark, so they can bring somebody in who has the agenda just the same, but present it in the light way. And so this is something that's heavily going on when it comes to balance and duality, that is all about the mystery religion, the New Age and Gnostic and all these things, of course. If you want to know more about the mystery religion, what that means, I don't have time to go over everything. End Times New Age series, I explain it all there. But that's really what's going on when it comes to this. Along with the golden age, it's about this one's big. Ideals and morals of the golden age were adopted by all people, all societies, and all religions. Oh, snap. What does that sound like? That sounds like a one world religion to me. That sounds like a one world religion. It's all about unity, which is one of those words that I often warn people about. I said, if you start hearing people say the word unity, especially in your church, you got to be. I've been trying to. If you go over the End Times New Age series, I kind of like was training people. When you hear these specific words, it should just be instant. Like, okay, what's up? Like, what am I hearing? It's just one of those words that grabs your attention. Unity is one of them. Because unity is thrown around so much in the church now, but it doesn't mean the unity that the Bible talks about when it comes to unification with fellow believers and whatnot. These pastors in these churches now are talking about unifying, unification with different types of religious traditions and whatnot. Churches are starting to do more events with Catholics. They're starting to do more events with Mormons. They're starting to do more well, not the Jehovah's Witness, because they don't want anything to do with them. Anyways, but they start reaching out and doing things with more and more of these other traditions and whatnot, bringing them in. And I have talked about this, and I have warned about this, and I firmly stand by this, even though people don't agree with me on it. That's fine. We have to be so selective on who we associate with. We have to be so selective who we associate with. And it's getting worse, because we're starting to see a lot of snakes being let into the backyard on purpose. And it's not good. And something I have said, and I've seen it happen more than once. I have personally seen this happen more than once. The moment you allow mystery religion to get her foot in the door, the moment you start allowing these other things to get into the church or into your home or into your family, it's going to start sending you down. And it's going to do it every single time. Don't do it. That's why the Lord has warned us over and over and over. Do not be unequally yoked. You are not of the world. You are just in the world. Divide from the world. Do not unite with anyone who opposes Jesus Christ. If we have been warned so many times, don't do it. But then here's the church going, well, we just all need to get along. These are just secondary issues. When in reality, they're not. A lot of this stuff isn't. They just get pushed off as secondary issues, and then we start seeing things go downhill. And this is a big one, and this is exactly what mystery religion wants, because she's the one that's riding the beast in. She's the one that's bringing the religion with her, that eventually she'll get thrown out, set on fire, ripped apart, and the Antichrist will come in with his one-word religion: worship me. And it's because of things like this, little things like this. We have to be so careful of who we associate with and who we promote and all that. Also coming with it, the Golden Age was a time where the ancient texts, the pagan texts, I read several of them from different religions. They all match up. They describe Saturn being the guiding star for the age. People look to Saturn to guide them, not the sun. We always, talk about the sun. No, they look to Saturn to guide them, which, of course, again, if you go back to the festival of Saturnalia, birth of the sun. So they're kind of one and the same. You might be confused. I'll explain it in just a second. The reason why this is important is because the Babylonian... Wait, wasn't Nimrod Babylon? That's right. Going back to Babylon. The reason why this is important to note is because the Babylonians knew that Saturn as the sun star, which they believed to be the true sun. So they believed that the Saturn was actually the true sun, and they called it the sun star. Worth noting that Nimrod is known as the god of the sun. Fascinating. Very fascinating. It's also written that during the Golden Age, the ability to reach the fifth dimension would be attainable. A key foundation found throughout mystery religions is to achieve a planet oneness through Christ consciousness and conscious evolution. I'll explain these in just a second. And this will ascend the planet into the fifth dimension. So one of the big things when it comes to New Age, when it comes to theosophy, when it comes to Hinduism, when it comes to Buddhism, when it comes to UFOlogy, like the Pleiadians and what they believe when it comes to that type of stuff, is they are all one with the planet. If you know the foundation of New Age, they believe that God is in everything and in everyone. That is not true. That means God is in my desk. He's not. God's in this water. He's not in this either. God's not in every one of us either. We are not gods. You know how some pastors like to say Christian means little Christ? That is New Age. Christian means Christ follower. Big difference. Little Christ is little God's doctrine, that you believe that you are God. So that's where most pastors don't even know that. They just say it without looking into it. It's one of those traditions that gets passed on that I wish they would look into, because that's a New Age teaching. Get that out. If you have a pastor that says that, go to them privately, gently, and say, I suggest you look into this because this is what it means. Definitely do that. That's something we don't want to be passing around. But the goal is, because God is in everything and everyone, that means that we are all one with each other and one with the planet. And so if we can all collectively, consciously get on the right spiritual awakening level, that means we can then take us and our planet and ascend into the next dimension. I kid you not. This is real stuff. I go over it in both End Times New Age series and the Aliens and Demons series. So yeah, I talk about that stuff as well. But ultimately, this is what the Golden Age is about. It's about getting everybody on the same consciousness awakened level so we can reach the next dimension and we can reach these attainable things that's going on. Everybody following me so far? I certainly hope so. Sorry, I get excited about this stuff, man. This is my area. I love talking about this stuff. Obviously, I hate what it is. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know. It's just fascinating to me. So the Golden Age also is very similar to what we would know as the Age of Aquarius, which again shares many traits with each other. So both the Golden Age and the Age of Aquarius share most of their traits. It is believed that Saturn moved into the Age of Aquarius in 2020. With Earth following behind. Now, there's still some debate on whether the Earth has entered into the Age of Aquarius or not. People are torn. I don't know. These people don't either. But everybody is basically saying it's about now that it should be happening because of what happened with Saturn back in 2020. The Age of Aquarius is a time of peace and unity, being the core points, being the core elements of it. Now, I showed this last Saturday, but I just want to go over it again just to make sure. The 4 main points of the Age of Aquarius, which again pretty much match the Golden Age belief, has to do with the mind shift from self into the human collective. That's that conscious shift into oneness type of deal. So it's all away from self into the collective type of deal. Age of transparency, letting everybody know what's going on. There's no hidden agendas. This is how we're moving forward type of deal, which again, that's not really happening, but that's something that Trump has been saying. He wants transparency. That's something Elon Musk has been saying. He said the whole Doge department's going to be about transparency. So we see that getting pushed. The explosion of technology and computers. Now, there's a lot to this. Now, obviously, we've been seeing what's going on with AI. We've been seeing what's going on with quantum computing. We see what's going on when it comes to technology as a whole in itself, how it's moving forward and whatnot. So we're seeing that explosion. But when it comes to Christ consciousness, which I'll get to in a second, hang on to that, that plays a big part as well. Spoiler alert, has to do with transhumanism. And then, of course, dissolving of religions and embracing the spiritual enlightenment of oneness. So that it has to do with everybody ditching their old traditions and falling in line with the new love religion. Yeah, that sounds nasty, right? Yeah. So pretty much the Golden Age and the Age of Aquarius, they match up on these beliefs. Something Trump has been pushing lately, of course, with this campaign, and people are firmly expecting from him, is this Golden Age of America, bringing about the unification, bringing about the peace, bringing about the prosperity. How many pastors have we heard talk about my bank account is safe? I got Donald Trump in there. We get to go eat at the Red Lobster again. Sorry. Just had to throw it out there. But yeah, these are things that he's been saying for a long time. Make America great again. New Golden Age of America. Make America first in AI. Make America first in cryptocurrency, crypto capital. Everything is about that, the Golden Age. And this is what people are bringing, and this is what people expect from him. So obviously that is something that we are absolutely seeing being done.